So, today we're going to do something a little different. We're taking what was originally a university assignment and turning it into a really practical guide for one of the toughest juggling acts out there, finding a real work-life balance. Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. Just a quick gut check. No long essays, no overthinking it. On a scale of A to F, like in school, how would you grade your work-life balance right now? Whatever letter just popped into your head, hold on to it. That's our starting point.
All right, Section 1, the Family Analysis Challenge. Sounds pretty academic, I know, but we're basically going to take apart this old-school assignment and use its framework to look at our own lives.
The entire thing really boils down to this one core question. What do you feel are the 3 biggest issues facing families balancing work and family demands? This isn't just for a paper. Today, this is the central question we're trying to answer for ourselves.
And this is the mindset shift we need. For the next few minutes, I want you to put on a different hat. You're the researcher, and your own family, they're the subject. The idea is to just step back and observe with a fresh, kind of analytical perspective. It's a pretty powerful exercise.
Okay, moving on. Before we can really fix anything, we have to know what we're aiming for, right? So let's talk about what work-family equilibrium actually means.
So what's the goal? Well, the source material calls it work-family equilibrium. It's defined as a state of personal and professional satisfaction, where the demands of one's career and family life are mutually compatible. The 2 keywords there are satisfaction and compatible. It's not about some impossible, stress-free perfection. It's about building a system where work and family can actually coexist without one constantly crushing the other.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway here. There is no one-size-fits-all formula for this. What balance looks like for your family is probably going to be completely different from your neighbor's family, and that's okay. In fact, that's the whole point. It's a deeply personal goal.
All right, time to roll up our sleeves. Section 3, finding your big 3 issues. This is where we actually put on our researcher hats and start to, gather the data on our own lives.
Now, the assignment is really specific. It asks for 3 issues. Just 3. Why? Well, because if you're like me, your list of frustrations could probably be a mile long, right? Focusing on just 3 stops us from getting totally overwhelmed. It forces us to pinpoint what's really having the biggest impact on our family's balance right now.
So how do we find these big 3? The idea of scientific observations sounds way more complicated than it is. It really just breaks down into these 3 simple steps. First, do a time audit. Be honest, where is every hour actually going? Second, pinpoint your stress points. What are those recurring arguments or those moments that just fill you with anxiety? And third, analyze your key conversations. What topics, chores, work, money, schedules keep coming up over and over again? The answers to these questions will pretty much spell out your big 3.
Okay, so once we've figured out the problems, we need some actual solutions. Let's move into Section 4, strategies for the whole team. And that last part is crucial. This is not a solo mission.
And here's something the original assignment is super clear about. It's a non-negotiable. Any advice, any solution has to work for both working mothers and working fathers. A fix that only helps one person isn't really a solution at all, is it? It's just shifting the burden somewhere else.
This really breaks down some of those different and often invisible pressures. You see here for working mothers, there's the talk of the second shift, all the work that happens after work, and that huge mental load of just managing everything. Then for working fathers, there can be this intense pressure to be the main provider, and sometimes a real stigma if they want to take on more of the caregiving. Seeing that these pressures are different but equally real is the first step to finding a solution that works for everyone.
So what does a real shared solution look like? Well, here are some fantastic, practical examples. A weekly State of the Union meeting, just 15 minutes to sync up. A shared digital calendar is a game changer. No more, oh, I didn't know that was tonight. It's also so important to have clearly defined off-duty time for each partner, so you can actually switch off. And maybe the biggest one of all, agreeing on what's a real priority versus what's just a nice-to-have. You see, these are all communication tools, not just scheduling hacks.
And that brings us to the home stretch, our final section. What's your final takeaway? Let's tie all these ideas together and figure out what really matters here.
You know, when you boil it all down, it comes to this. The original university assignment might have been for a grade, but for our purposes today, the goal is so much more valuable. It's about starting a conversation. This whole exercise, it's just a tool to help you and your family talk about what's really going on in a productive way.
And that leaves us with our final question. After everything we've talked about, from that letter grade you gave yourself to figuring out your big 3 issues,
What is the one single conversation your family needs to have this week? What's that one talk that can move you just one tiny step closer to that equilibrium we've been talking about? That's the real assignment.